Welcome back, everyone. We're going to go ahead and continue. So once again, thank you to our wonderful keynote for helping us understand how to do translational work on a national scale. Now I want to tell you a bit more about our Research to Practice program. This is the second year of the program, and the purpose of it is to bring together scholars and researchers at all different stages. So from advanced graduate students to postdoc researchers to early career and beyond for faculty. They come for a year. We start in September. We meet monthly. We workshop our projects, and the goal here is to take our expertise, right, and to turn it into a tool for the Rutgers community to use. You can see the range of topics in the agenda, which is both available in the table tents as a QR code and online for those who received the email, who are in that same email where you're able to access today's event. You can go ahead and click on the link for the webpage that shows the agenda. I want to, and you'll see here that we have representation across a range of schools. Each of our fellows has been doing such incredible work on the ground, both in local communities, within Rutgers and beyond. And so I can't tell you how excited I am to be able to showcase their work today. They're going to go ahead and introduce themselves and their projects. I just wanted you all to know how much effort and time went into cultivating these. And we'll talk at the end of today's symposium about how you can continue to access the materials that they're talking about. So without further ado, I'd like to turn the floor over to Sheila Tabanli, who is going to kick us off. Should advance the slides here. We need to face it towards that one.
Here or here?
I think there is where you got to go. And then, there you go. They got it pulled up. Okay. And then if you need anything, you know where to find it.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Sheila Tabanli. I'm an assistant teaching professor in the mathematics department at SAS. The title of my talk is Reducing the Novice-to-Expert Perception Gap in Mathematics to Increase Diversity in STEM.
You hit the laser pointer button.
Okay, so the green one? Okay, thank you. So first, I would like to, we talked about the social relevance, but in other words, something that we are studying, exploring, has to be relevant to us. So initially, I would like to talk about why it matters to me. Diversity in STEM, reducing the perception gap in my classrooms, why it matters. So one of my identities is I'm a mother of two, I'm a wife, and I'm an educator. So I have background in K-12 teaching and administration, as well as my career at Rutgers and even before. So I remember many years ago as a graduate student in the middle of Missouri, I started the first ACMW chapter in the state of Missouri. So diversity does matter. And one of the things I believe that may impact diversity in STEM careers, and we talked about not only recruitment but retention of our students in the STEM fields, to give them the sense of belonging and why it matters. So in mathematics teaching and learning, we have multiple gaps, as you may know. We have math readiness gaps, such as for an instructor like myself, I'm teaching calculus classes, and I'm also seeing are the students ready for calculus. We also have math achievement gap, pandemic learning gap, research-to-practice gap in teaching and learning. So one of my references, Dan, you mentioned how people learn, because there's a whole research about how people actually learn. How do we incorporate this knowledge in our own classroom teaching experiences? So there is that gap as well. However, I'm not going to be talking about all the other gaps. My focus is on this novice-to-expert perception gap. So I'm the domain content expert. I know calculus, I teach this content. And the students in my classrooms are the novices. They sign up to learn that content from me. However, I may have an implicit bias in the knowledge that I carry, and I might be blessed or cursed with this called curse of expertise. We have some examples. We will relate it to your experiences, to your identity, what this curse of expertise means, and how it may affect our students, their approaches, their motivation to learn math, to choose a career in STEM, and to stay in that career path. So my goal is, as Dr. Tabanli mentioned, that our goal as the R2P fellows is to create a toolkit. And the two sources that we utilize for this project are, we have our students, we have a virtual student panel, so we have insights from our students. Also, we have a published research, a literature review about this gap. So there are three goals about my project. One of them is, how do we reduce the perception gap by improving the discourse and empathy between the students and the instructor? The second one is how to improve learners' sense of belonging. Do I belong in this space? And the third one is, so there are two sides of the story. And especially in math classrooms, sometimes we may feel like students get frustrated with the huge amount of information they need to learn, they need to retrain, they need to retain that information, they need to apply it. So mathematics is a demanding subject. It is not hard, it is demanding. This, we label it, this, we reframe it in our classes. So while as a professor, I may feel like my students come to my class who may not be well prepared to take the calculus content, it may affect my sense of excitement. So we are hoping that as we label, as we define this perception gap, we are hoping that we can reduce that gap between the experts, the content experts, and the novices, our students, through this toolkit. So as you can see, it was a mouthful, right? It was a whole paragraph of this project that I proposed to Dr. Tabanli about a year ago. So let's scaffold it. What are we trying to do? Reducing the novice-expert perception gap in math, one classroom at a time, to increase diversity in STEM. So let's talk about identity. Our students, do they feel like they belong in the math classroom in STEM fields? So I mentioned it to my students in 135 class just last semester. Do you consider yourself a mathematician? Then I shared with them the definition of what mathematician is. So mathematician is not only limited to the expert, someone who has a fluency in the domain, but it also includes a student of mathematics. So I congratulated them that you are all mathematicians. So this title doesn't only belong to me because I'm in front of the classroom, but it also belongs to the students in our math classrooms. So again, the why this matters. So let's talk about the identities of math teachers, the experts, and the students, the novices. So we use Google. I ask Google two things. The first one I asked at the end of 2023 in December, math university professor. This is what came out in the first page of that search. Then I asked confused college math student. This is what came out in the first page of my search back in December 2023. So based on that, I'm not going to make any more comments. I think the project is going to speak, and you can see the statistics, and I'm sure there are some statistics about it. Then correct me if I'm wrong about the identities of mathematicians and how we can diversify that identity. So now let's relate it to your identity. So I believe, I assume, please correct my assumption if I'm wrong, that you all have some certain degree, a terminal degree or some bachelor's degree. If you are a student, then you are in the path to obtain that higher education degree. Let's relate this to your identity, so your education status. This is a course I'm teaching, Math 135. It is a Calculus 1 course for life science and social science majors. This is the last page of my syllabus, tentative instructional plan. And as you can see in this course, we have 5 chapters and 33 sections. So I just want to talk about only one section, 3.11, related rates and applications. Chapter 3, derivatives, related rates and applications. So what does it mean, related rates? I'm relating rates of changes of different variables with respect to time. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 steps in this procedure that I explicitly introduce to the students about the steps. And we talk about what each step corresponds to. I can read it, but I'm not gonna because I summarized it. So step 1. Step 1, draw a figure, if possible. Identify what changes, what doesn't change. So this is basically reading. And especially related rates, one of the 2 topics in the whole curriculum is word problems. Who loves word problems? Ooh, love it, love it. Yes, word problems. Reading, drawing. Step 2, geometry. Step 3, finally we are using calculus. So when we scaffold these questions, by the time we get to calculus, it really requires for everyone to get very focused, to have a strong attention, a wide attention span by the time we understand the problem. And then the last step, algebra. So I think we are only missing probability and statistics out of all the math domains here. So there is the reading, comprehension, understanding, setting up the problem, and geometry, calculus, this is a calculus course, and algebra. So this is a, how many sentences? 1, 2, 3. 3 sentences, word problem. There is a spherical balloon, and it's being filled with gas. When the radius is 2 feet, the radius at that moment, I call it a magical moment, or we freeze the time, when the radius of this spherical balloon is 2 feet, the radius at that moment is increasing at the rate of 1/6 feet per minute. At that moment again, the magical time, how fast is the volume changing? So this is 3 sentences only, right? 3 sentences. So we break down the problem. This is my attempt to draw a spherical balloon, and I call it my light bulb moment. So I'm not very good at drawing. That's why I didn't choose a career in drawing. I love math. So we separate what is given in the problem, what is being asked. We find the formula, and students, they don't need to memorize the formula because it comes, our course has a formula sheet. But of course, they need to identify the right formula for this specific problem. And then step 3, as you can see, up until step 3, we didn't do any calculus yet. Step 3 is the implicit differentiation of that equation with respect to time. And step 4 is after we get that rate of change for whatever is being asked, we substitute the values for the given variables. And finally, we come up with dV dt, how is the volume changing with respect to time, as 8 pi over 3 cubic feet per minute. So, right, I explained it to you. So now you got it, right? So I conveyed my message to you, you must have got it. So I'm gonna now ask you to please rate your understanding of that one calculus problem that has 3 sentences. You don't need to say, I'm A, B, C, D, E, F. You don't need to say it out loud, but just to yourself. So as we can see, learning is complicated, so does teaching. So the way I look at that one single calculus problem as an expert, as someone who has been teaching this content for several years and have coordinated the course, is different than how my students view the exactly same question. So if I do not understand it from their perspectives, that might be a natural outcome of me being an expert in the field, that I might be cursed with this curse of expertise. And now I would like to relate it to my list. M is for medicine. I'm going to introduce music. So let's relate it to my experiences, because why it matters, right? So me and my husband, about a year ago, we decided to take some dancing classes. And I love dancing, I love music, I love singing, although you don't want to hear me singing, but I love it. And in my mind, I went to the class assuming that I know what I'm doing. I know how to groove, right? It turned out it wasn't correct. It was a learning experience for me that when I learned there are certain rules that the instructors instructed us. They expect us to hold the hands in a certain way, look a certain way. There were rules involved in dancing. Me being a novice in that field, I went there with some certain type of an expectation. I came out as, okay, this is how it feels to be a novice in something that I thought I knew it. But again, this is not about me. So now, this is about you as the audience. So let's relate it to your experience. If you can please think of one thing that you recently learned, a new skill that you acquired, just one thing. And this is the moment I'm going to ask everyone to little bit get out of your comfort zone, as I invite my students to do the same. If you can please get out of your comfort zone and form your groups, please. In your groups of 2 or 3, because engagement matters, right? Active learning matters. We need to be actively part of that learning process to really understand and retain that information. In your groups of 2 or 3, if you can please think of one skill, maybe a knowledge that you recently acquired, and please talk to your groups for 5 minutes, which I'm going to use a timer, to respond to these questions. As a novice in this other field, not the field you are an expert in, how did it feel? How did you feel? How was your instructor's approach, their attitudes towards you, your novice status? How did this approach impact your learning? And what are your takeaways from this experience? So again, it's good to be out of our comfort zone. So if you can, please form your groups, 2 to 3 people, and just have a conversation with one another. I'm putting a timer for about 5 minutes. Thank you. May I get everyone's attention, please? So time passes fast when we time ourselves, right? We see that a lot in our classrooms. So thank you for that engagement, your participation. Dan, this is the book you were talking about, right? How People Learn, the first volume. So according to Bransford et al., there are 6 key principles of experts' knowledge and what are the potential implications for learning and instruction. So as experts, we have patterns of information. That information is well organized, and it cannot be reduced to a set of isolated facts. And I may need a little attentional effort to retrieve those formulas comparing to the students in my classes. However, it doesn't make me an efficient teacher. And all the experts varies in their flexibility to new situations. So as an expert, I can adapt to a new situation. What it means is, for a novice learner, when they see an unfamiliar question on a test, they may freak out because they may not reach to that level of flexibility. So again, more research, the why. So curse of expertise is a cognitive bias. And it's also called my favorite, knew it all along effect. And the expertise, as we get bigger or as we grow in our expertise, it may also take away something from us, such as it may put a distance between us and the novice learners in our classrooms in a teaching space. As an expert, it may become a second nature to me. I have an intuition when I see a problem that may not exist with a novice learner. So they have to be consciously and deliberately thinking about that process, but for me, it might be an automatic way of thinking. And experts perceive data. We talked about well-organized knowledge base. Whereas for novices, especially in math classrooms, when we have students, there were, I believe, 33 different sections. And in each section, I'm not even including the pre-calc and algebra base, the groundwork that the students need to do well to succeed in calculus. But we have about maybe 50 at least different procedures, or 50 to 100, let's say. So I organize them. For example, the rules of logarithms. I can retrieve it fluently because I have been doing it for many years. We talked about practice, for example, with the table. However, for students, these are isolated bunch of facts. So since they may not be able to see the bigger picture, they may feel like to learn mathematics, they may need to memorize about 100 different theorems just to succeed in a course. And according to Redmond, Sanago et al., obstacles keeping students from achieving STEM degrees may also include an academically or culturally uninviting environment for underrepresented populations. So Dreyfus' model of skills acquisition says, everyone wants a novice. So I wasn't born an expert in calculus. All the expertise that you developed over the years, we go through these processes. Novice, advanced beginner, competent, proficient, and expert. So as an instructor in my class, I want my students to level up, starting from novice, advanced beginner, and maybe adopt expert-like orientations like myself. But we are not going to talk about it today again. What we are going to talk about as an expert, how can I perceive this, the learning experience, from my novice student's perspective? So as you can see, there is a skill gap. This gap may translate into a perception gap. Because as I said, that related race problem that is so familiar to me is not the same way. My students do not see it the same way I see it. So we ask the experts in their learning math. We ask our students. We formed a student panel, and I want to give a shout out to many people who supported me in this project. but I'm saving them for the one of the few last slides. So first, we recruited students, especially from the SAS EOF program. I created a survey or a student intake form and asked students a few questions. Then the students went to the Rutgers ITV studio and we recorded them. So now we have a video to share it with you, about 8 minutes, and 5 of our students from various math classrooms at Rutgers.
My name is Dua Raza. My pronouns are she, hers, and I am majoring in cell biology and neuroscience.
My name is Anushka Majumdar. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a double major in political science and economics.
Hi, my name is Kayla Spence. I am in the business school and I major in finance. My pronouns are she, her.
My name is Colby Reed. My pronouns are she, her, and my major is design and I'm concentrating in print and photography.
My name is Betsita Faison. My major is cellular biology/neuroscience. My pronouns are she, her, and I don't have a minor at the moment.
So in K through 12, math is obviously a lot slower paced, but it's still challenging because students are often not taught how to solve problems. They're kind of presented an equation without really having the understanding of what problem solving even really means. Compared to Rutgers, it's definitely more fast-paced, but thanks to a lot of resources at Rutgers, it is possible for students to understand how to problem solve, and I think that can help their classes become less challenging.
From K through 12, I consider myself very average at math, hence why I didn't want to really pursue much in STEM coming into Rutgers, but I decided that I wanted to double major with economics last semester actually, and I did that mainly because I wanted to challenge myself and do something out of my comfort zone. So now that I'm taking Calc at Rutgers, I find that it is obviously a difficult course, but I find that I found a work ethic that works best for me, and I'm able to use that work ethic to get the grades that I want in calculus.
Well, I would say apparently learning math in the K through 12 level, it's a bit simpler. I feel like the teachers and there's more guidance in that department. At the college level, while there are many resources, I believe it's more up to the student to guide themselves and navigate themselves through using those resources.
Learning math in K-12, it felt like the teachers were trying to cover the content in order to get through it, instead of making sure that we as students actually understood it. There would be times in class when I didn't even know most of my times tables because they were rushing through the concept of learning multiplication. How that affected me in my time in middle school was that I didn't understand some concepts like algebra or didn't know how to do long division because I was missing some of the key aspects about learning math.
So my experience learning math K through 12 was very straightforward. There was a lot of people kind of watching you, kind of on you, whereas at Rutgers, it's more like they give you questions, less of people really caring about your education, and more of kind of an instructor kind of instructing, choreographing the class.
I think I would be more likely to speak up in class if it didn't feel like I was in like a bubble necessarily. So I feel like a lot of math classes that I've taken, it feels like we are just being spoken to for the entirety of the hour and a half. But I feel like if classes were more interactive on all fronts, if we were got to interact more with the professor, interact more with the students around us, it would feel like I'm not necessarily alone in my struggles, and that I would have more of a will, I guess, to speak up in class and ask questions.
So for me, it really matters a lot when I feel like the question I'm asking isn't being judged or it's a judgment-free zone. So oftentimes when professors really take a pause after they ask the question, And that can even be for like 10 seconds and 10 very slow seconds, and look almost like across the room, making eye contact with students, because sometimes I'll have a question, but I'm just working through how to process even articulating it. And having that time where I know the teacher is expecting me to have the question gives me a lot of confidence to raise my hand and ask.
I feel like I'm more apt to talk up in class when I feel like other people around me are also feeling the same confusion. And I feel like in class, if everyone kind of became a little bit of community kind of atmosphere, it would make me more comfortable to speak up. Sometimes I'm mainly more nervous to speak up because I feel like I'm gonna be judged by like my classmates. So.
Honestly, what helps me to speak up personally are other students that may also have the same problems, and I feel like when I'm more involved in the mathematics community or the community of the classroom I'm in, it's more engaging, and I'm more able to speak up for myself within that environment because it feels more friendly. I feel like there are others that are on my side.
What I wish my professor knew about me is that sometimes I just need that push in the right direction. Because sometimes when I'm in a classroom setting, it's really hard for me to understand it. And I'm afraid speaking up in class may embarrass me because I have other peers around me and they could understand it, and I'd be afraid that I'll be the only one that doesn't understand it. By the professor helping me privately, it'll help me understand the concept, so when I'm in the classroom, I may feel more encouraged to speak up that I don't understand something.
My professor should know that I wouldn't say I'm a slow learner, but I do like to take more time. I feel like at Rutgers, the curriculum moves fairly fast, and it's almost hard to absorb the information completely. And sometimes I get lost or get held behind because I don't understand a concept, and then it just keeps compounding, and and then it puts you in a very difficult place to keep learning because you're kind of stuck in that area of difficulty. Last semester, I actually took calc for the first time at Rutgers. I didn't do great at it for that reason, and I wish my professor would know that currently. So far in this class, I've been learning a lot better, actually, because my professor currently is taking more time, making sure the students actually understand the topics we're learning, and she's very helpful during office hours.
I wish my professor was a little bit more understanding of the fact that not everyone learns best in a lecture environment. I know that was definitely a struggle for me coming into Rutgers because most of my class sizes from K through 12 were like 20, 30 students. And now I'm sitting in lecture halls with like hundreds and 200 students. So I think, as I was saying before, making it a more collaborative environment would definitely lessen some of that struggle to adapting into a large lecture environment, which isn't necessarily a suitable learning environment for most people.
What I wish my professor knew about me and my math learning is that I would like to be taken through all the steps of the process to getting to the final answer. For example, if I ask a professor, a simple question, say about, the algebra portion of mathematics, and they say, oh, well, that's just a given. You're just supposed to understand that and know that. I'm less prone to being able to wrap my head around that and the problem as a whole, as opposed to the professor walking me through the problem step by step, the problem that I have troubles with.
What I wish my professor would know about me and my math learning is that their passion for the subject really translates over to how much I'm engaged with it. So when we're relating topics like velocity with something they've actually done maybe throughout their careers or that they can apply to the real world, that really sees how the skills I'm learning are going to benefit me in the real world, and their passion makes me feel more passionate about the subject. And that's ultimately what I think gets the best results.
So the students might be novices in math classrooms, but they are the experts of their own learning experiences. So the key takeaways that I was able to get from this 8 minutes video, and we also asked them more questions, are the 3 C's. The students want compassion. Compassionate math teaching and learning in a connected community. They want to feel the connection with their peers, with the instructor. They want to have relatable experiences, like the way that you related being a novice through something that you recently learned. We can address the curse of expertise, such as in mathematics, by step-by-step explicit instructions versus what is happening in my head versus what I communicate to my students. And a judgment-free learning zone, learning space. So again, the research has to be based on a framework. So I found this, Hammer et al., Teaching Through Interactions Framework. There are 3 components: instructional support, emotional support, and classroom organization. And how can we achieve this? Now we learned about the concept called perception gap. We reached to that first step. We are acknowledging that in our own classrooms, and as Dr. Badley mentioned, in our R2P meetings, this is not only in mathematics. In any domain where there is an expert versus a novice, there could be a perception gap, but now we come to that awareness. We know that it exists. So what can we do about it? How can we help our students journey to their competence, such as acquiring a pedagogical content knowledge? So there is a domain expertise, knowing calculus, knowing pre-calc algebra, whatever the content is, but there is also pedagogical content knowledge, such as, and this is an explicit and intentional instruction. What are the muddy points? Me grading many student work over the years, what can I share with my students as a common misconception in any topic? How can we foster natural conversation? It's not top to bottom, but we also give that agency to our students that they can lead the conversations. And we can just be a active participant in that conversation, but we don't necessarily need to lead the conversation. And this is my favorite. In calculus, there are many reforms for many years now. Several of them are so focused on the content, the curriculum. How do we change the curriculum? As we have heard from our students, the tons of information that they need to learn in one course, let's move from content focus to a more focus on learners' acquisition of higher order thinking skills. For example, the learning assistants that I have in my class, I want to give a shout out to one student, Lakshmi. She's helping me in my Math 135 Fridays morning, first period, third period. She can talk about her muddy points, her experiences with my students, and they become very active listeners to Lakshmi's experiences in calculus that she got an A year ago. A teacher training in the science of learning. Currently, I'm leading a semester support group, and it has a similar name, Reducing Research2Practice Gap in Teaching. So please join me. We are learning about the instructional framework that I developed that is grounded in cognitive science and social-emotional learning research. Deconstruction of implicit knowledge. So the information that I have here, how can I explicitly, the implicit knowledge I have here, how can I share it with my students? Novice-led conversations for acknowledgement. This may require coaching the experts and the novices so they can have a respectful, judgment-free conversations. And let's talk about diversity. However, this is not the diversity based on gender, skin color, but according to Carroll, learners are diverse based on their aptitude, their motivation and perseverance, and the opportunities that they have. So if we can construct curriculums by incorporating these diverse abilities or the backgrounds, not necessarily the diversity that we generally talk about, more students can succeed in our classrooms. For the expert, the instructor, what can we do? We can incorporate self-reflection. Many years ago, I used to have a reflective journal. I was expected to journal on a weekly basis in my high school teaching years. What worked, what didn't work, how can I improve it for the next week? I hope maybe a variation of it could be integrated in higher education teaching spaces. Curricula are generally designed by experts, not by novices. So we might be underestimating the time it takes for a novice to really understand the curriculum, the 33 sections that I have in my calculus course. And it's not one fits all. Everyone is unique, and we can offer these personalized pathways as I do it for 125 through a chancellor's teaching fellowship. I wish we can do it in these coordinated large courses where we have more students signed up to transition to the major that they are passionate about. So what are the practical implications, key takeaways from my experiences? I call it CIA, curriculum, instruction, and assessment. So the curriculum is, again, the purpose of a student attending a higher education institution is after they graduate, they want to get an employment. They want to be employed. So how can we relate these maybe not so relatable, abstract concepts to the employability skills of their students' experiences so we can foster lifelong learning? The muddy points, again, there's something I'm constructing, the study guides that we can offer, that I'm offering. It's one page. We can fit 33 topics on one page, and students on a regular basis, I designed activities that starts with a priming effect that ends with a reflection and muddy point. And I can imagine if a student on a regular basis, if they fill in that retrieval box or the muddy point, what is my next step? What are my muddy points? They can set themselves to succeed in a course better. Instruction, how do we invoke students' curiosity or their interest? At highereducation.com, I published an opinion about the first day survey that I gave to students. And something very beautiful happened at the end of the semester. A student said, she emailed me saying, I held on to the why you introduced the first day of classes. So it helped her keep going at a rigorous course like calculus. And normalizing mistakes. So I'm going to ask the audience now, or people on the online, is there anyone who never made a mistake in their lives? Please raise your hand. So we humans, we make mistakes. In a calculus content I'm teaching, I make mistakes. So it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to learn from the mistakes. Speak up points. So thank you, Christy, for bringing this. So I bring it to my class, and I started giving speak up points. Speak up means I didn't get this. And as we heard it from our students, it's not only one student. There are several students who may not be getting it because just like now, eye contact, I can see where your maybe the related trace problem, right? Maybe that was the muddy point, maybe it didn't stick well, there's something expected. But speak up, get your points, extra credit points. So I'm incentivizing that. Or as I call it, I'm bribing them to speak up, which is okay. The procedures, actually we have a Polya's framework who is considered, Polya, a father of modern problem solving. So he has a 4-step framework. But are we really explicitly introducing it in our classrooms? And share vulnerabilities. So the word problem that I read to you, and as you can see, I have an accent. I'm originally from Turkey. And me being a ESL person, English as a second language, I can decipher that word problem with practice, right? With perseverance, and I can understand it. And it's okay to share these vulnerabilities, the mistakes we might be making in our spaces. Assessment, instead of these high-stakes assessments that may combine some students' math anxiety as well as the test anxiety, we can have frequent low-stakes assessments and alternative assessments to allow students agency, their ownership, their interest. Again, it's not a one-fits-all. So the conclusion is, in the quest to find out the characteristics of talent, we were looking for exceptional kids, but what we found were exceptional conditions. So we can create these exceptional conditions so our students can succeed. And while there is a respect for the content expertise, we can also give a voice to the novices, our students in the classroom, just like the student panel that we have through this project. Then we can foster this mutual understanding, mutual respect, and learning from each other's perceptions. So we can avoid memes like this one. My least favorite is the one on the right. So now the acknowledgements. So I would like to acknowledge Dr. Crystal Bedley, but the first thing I want to acknowledge are our student panelists. Batista, Anushka, Dua, Colby, and Kaida. Ernesto, Lorenzo, Edgardo, Acevedo, Dr. Michelle Shostek, the director of SACOF program, Dr. Genevieve de Los Santos. Genevieve helped, since she's the expert on student virtual panels, we had a meeting that she also helped me with constructing the questions for the survey. And also Bill Rutherford. By the way, I want to give a shout out to FTC. We got a team grant, mutual mentoring networking, and Bill is an expert. He's a writing consultant, so he also helped me with the questions that I have for the survey. These are some of the selected references, and as one of the students mentioned, if we reframe what we do, and if we explicitly share with our students, this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I love, it spreads. So thank you for your attention.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Sheila, for that exciting presentation, beautiful video. We're going to take a short recess, about 5 minutes, just to get the next presentation loaded. So grab a coffee or tea, and we'll get started here momentarily. Thanks, everyone.